just perhaps time travel is possible for advanced civilizations.
In May 1921, Paul Amadeus Dienach, a Swiss-Austrian teacher, suddenly fell ill and entered a deep coma that lasted an entire year. Upon awakening, Dienach's life took an extraordinary turn, revealing unsettling supernatural abilities. He displayed an uncanny talent for predicting future events, indicating that something profound had transformed within him during his prolonged slumber.
That was the theory that Terence McKenna had to the thing that's going to change the universe, is that one day someone's going to invent a time machine. And that when they invent a time machine, all time ceases to become linear.
To understand the significance of Dienach's predictions, we must look at the man behind the mystery. Born in Zurich, he had a passion for history and classical philology, dedicating his life to the study of ancient languages. Despite his fragile health, few could foresee the bizarre events that awaited him. Dienach had previously experienced a shorter coma lasting only 14 days, after which he returned to his normal routine. However, the events of May 1921 would forever change his life. After another brief illness, Dienach fell into a deep sleep again. Friends and family tried in vain to wake him, and doctors were baffled by his condition. Tragically, during this time, his mother passed away without seeing her son awake. In May 1922, an astonishing event occurred. Dienach opened his eyes after a year of unconsciousness. Physically fine but changed, he became reserved, engaging primarily with his priest while withdrawing from others. There was an unsettling air about Dienach. Was it grief from losing his mother? Perhaps, but it felt like something deeper was at play. He began exploring religious and spiritual themes, engaging in lengthy discussions with his priest, hinting at insights about the afterlife and the universe that were beyond the priest's understanding. Yet he never fully divulged these revelations. As time passed, Dienach began to resemble a man who had encountered something extraordinary, transcending the boundaries of ordinary experience. In October 1922, Dienach's health deteriorated when he contracted tuberculosis. His doctors advised him to seek a warmer climate, leading him to relocate to Athens, Greece, where he taught French and German. Although the new environment seemed to improve his condition initially, he remained an enigma to those around him. In Athens, he forged a close friendship with a young student named George Papahatsis. While Dienach shared much about his life with Papahatsis, he remained tight-lipped regarding his coma experiences. As Dienach's tuberculosis worsened in 1923, he became increasingly aware of his mortality. During this period, memories of his year-long coma began to resurface. Initially, he struggled to recall the details, but slowly fragments of his experiences came together, bringing both relief and urgency. Determined to preserve these extraordinary memories, Dienach dedicated himself to writing. He spent weeks meticulously documenting the vivid and surreal events of his coma, creating a personal account that offered glimpses into a reality far beyond ordinary understanding. But what exactly did Dienach experience during that lost year? What revelations did he uncover about the future? What secrets about time, existence, and the cosmos had he glimpsed? These were the mysteries Dienach inscribed in his writings, and what you're about to discover next may challenge everything you thought you knew about life, time, and the human experience. Chapter 2. The Tale of Dienach's Journey into the Future. Paul Amadeus Dienach, a relatively obscure figure during his lifetime, passed away in 1924, likely from tuberculosis. For nearly 50 years, his name faded into obscurity until an unexpected twist in 1972 resurrected his legacy. His former student, George Papahatsis, published a book that significantly altered the trajectory of Dienach's story. This book was a translation of Dienach's personal diary, chronicling his extraordinary experiences during a mysterious coma. Dienach had entrusted his diary to Papahatsis to help him improve his German by translating its contents into Greek. However, Dienach explicitly instructed that the diary never be published. Yet Papahatsis found himself unable to resist sharing the incredible narrative. And while some may argue he disobeyed his teacher's wishes, this act of defiance ultimately brought Dienach's remarkable story into the light. As Papahatsis began translating the diary, he found the early entries quite ordinary, filled with personal reflections, including Dienach's heartbreak over his first love, who married another man and tragically died shortly after. However, as the translation progressed, The entries transformed into something surreal, revealing experiences that leaned more towards science fiction than a personal memoir. One of the most striking sections details Dienach's second coma. He describes awakening in an unfamiliar room, surrounded by strangers. Outside the window, a breathtaking landscape unfolded, filled with vibrant hues of blue and green. Inside, a soft pink light emanated from a crystal on the wall, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. Initially, Dienach believed he had either entered heaven or somehow traveled to an alien planet. However, he soon realized he was in a hospital, one unlike anything he had ever encountered. For 9 long days, Dienach lay in bed, wrestling with excruciating pain and confusion. On the 10th day, he unexpectedly began to regain his strength, surprising even himself. However, the real shock came when a nurse removed the bandage from his head. Staring into the mirror for the first time, he was struck by disbelief at the unfamiliar face looking back at him. Panic washed over him as he struggled to understand the identity of the stranger in the reflection. Recognizing his distress, the hospital staff assigned him 2 doctors, a chief physician and a specialist. Yet despite their efforts, Dienach found himself unable to comprehend their language, which blended Anglo and Scandinavian sounds, but remained frustratingly elusive. Gradually acclimating to his surroundings, Dienach overheard the staff discussing a man named Andreas Northam, who had been in a fatal accident, but whose brain was preserved and revived. The unsettling realization hit him: he was inhabiting Northam's body. Instead of revealing his true identity, he chose to keep this bizarre secret. Initially, Dienach believed he was still in 1921, but a conversation with a doctor shattered that illusion, revealing that he had been transported nearly 2,000 years into the future, to the year 3906. This revelation plunged him into an emotional crisis as he struggled to reconcile his 1921 mindset with his new reality. In this turmoil, he encountered a group of enigmatic figures known as the Lectors. These spiritual leaders radiated wisdom, prompting Dienach to confess his past and the strange circumstances that had led him to this future world. Their cryptic responses about human perception and the nature of reality left him grappling for understanding. Eventually, he met 2 key figures in Northam's life: his mentor Jürger and his closest friend, Stefan. They took Dienach under their wing, teaching him about their advanced society. They introduced him to the Regensschwege, a remarkable device capable of converting written words into sound and images, reminiscent of modern tablets. Through the Regensschwege, Dienach explored centuries of human history leading up to 3906. However, there was a critical limitation. Dienach was forbidden from learning anything about the 20th century, the very era he had come from. Jürger explained that acquiring knowledge about his own time could tempt Dienach to alter the course of history, potentially causing catastrophic consequences for the timeline. Despite the surreal nature of his experiences, Dienach gradually adapted to life in the future, immersing himself in knowledge from the Regensschwege while carrying the weight of his unimaginable truth. He had become a man out of time, living in a borrowed body in a world that was not his own. The insights Dienach gleaned during his time in this distant future would forever transform his understanding of life, reality, and human progress. Thanks to George Papahatsis, Dienach's remarkable story did not remain buried in an old diary. Instead, it survived, offering a profound glimpse into the extraordinary experiences of a man who traversed the boundaries of time and space. Here's what Dienach discovered about humanity's future. Chapter 3: Dienach's Discovery. From the years 2000 to 2300, humanity encounters 3 tumultuous centuries marked by crises and profound transformations. The ever-growing population strains global resources, pulling nations into a relentless cycle of conflict. Yet amid these challenges, remarkable milestones are achieved, both on Earth and beyond. In 2124, Mars becomes the site of a thriving human colony, symbolizing hope in the expansion of human presence in the cosmos. However, this success is tragically short-lived. A catastrophic impact event devastates the colony, wiping out all traces of human life on Mars. This devastating loss casts a long shadow over future space exploration, deterring attempts to colonize other planets for generations. As the 23rd century dawns, humanity teeters on the brink of collapse. Embroiled in an 80-year medium-scale war that ravages Europe, the landscapes are scarred and populations decimated. Only the Baltic and Scandinavian regions emerge relatively unscathed, which likely contributes to the unique blend of English and Scandinavian influences in the dominant language by 3906. The nuclear conflict leaves deep scars across the globe, leading to a drastic decline in the human population by 2396. Amid this post-war ruin, a new global government rises, promising stability and unity. However, the reality proves to be far more complex. While this new government successfully ends the war and ushers in a new era, it soon becomes mired in corruption. Oligarchs manipulate the system, wielding power for personal gain. For the next 2 centuries, humanity resists this corrupt regime, engaging in sporadic uprisings and societal shifts. Eventually, the government collapses, yielding control to intellectuals, humanitarians, and scientists, marking the dawn of a new chapter in human history, one founded on cooperation and collective well-being. In the following centuries, from 2600 to 2900, humanity undergoes a dramatic transformation. The scarcity-based economies that once defined civilization give way to an adequacy-based system, prioritizing the common good over mere wealth accumulation. Work evolves from a means of survival to one of societal contribution. Initially, individuals work for 40 years before retiring, supported by the global community for the remainder of their lives. However, by the time Dienach arrives in 3906, this system has further evolved. In this future, every individual must complete a compulsory 2-year program called the service, beginning after formal education and lasting until the age of 19. This program serves as a rite of passage into adulthood. Upon completion, individuals are free to pursue their passions without financial burdens, as money is no longer the primary measure of value. Instead, wealth is defined in terms of knowledge, art, and science. The physicist whose body Dienach occupies continues to work out of personal interest, but no one is compelled to do so. As long as they complete the service, people can live as they choose, liberated from the necessity of earning a living. However, this utopia prompts a troubling question. How did humanity overcome greed and selfishness, traits deeply ingrained in human nature for millennia? Dienach learns that this transformation was sparked by a profound event known as the Nibelberg. Around the year 3000, humanity developed a new spiritual ability called the oversin, or super sin, enabling individuals to access a vast reservoir of spiritual knowledge. Yet this transformation came at a steep cost. Those who first experienced the Nibelberg were overwhelmed by a surge of emotions and insights, leading to their demise. For years, it seemed impossible for anyone to survive this transition, until 3382, when the first person successfully endured it, paving the way for a new era. This marked the birth of a new species, Homo occidentalis novus, or the new Western man. With this evolution, human nature fundamentally changed. Greed, competition, and personal ambition faded into obscurity. People now lived with a heightened sense of interconnectedness, working instinctively for the good of all. With this new mindset, laws and regulations became obsolete. Humanity no longer needed external governance to maintain order. Everyone simply acted in the best interest of the collective. The centuries leading up to this enlightenment are remembered as a dark era, a time when humanity struggled to find its way toward spiritual awakening. Despite this seemingly idyllic world, Dienach couldn't help but notice a peculiar characteristic in the people of 3906. They carried themselves with the carefree joy of children, untouched by worry or fear. This childlike quality raised questions in Dienach's mind. What would happen if an external threat, such as an alien invasion, arose? To his surprise, he learned that humanity had already made contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, and the interactions had been peaceful and mutually beneficial. There was no need to fear external threats. Humans and aliens coexisted harmoniously, sharing knowledge across the stars. One day, Dienach's guide, Stefan, invited him on a journey to the city of Nur, a place that didn't exist in Dienach's original time and still doesn't exist today. Nur, the 4th largest city in the world by 3906, was unlike anything Dienach had ever imagined. The cityscape was a wonderland of mansions that reached the heights of mountains, lakes bordered with synthetic marble, and hanging gardens that floated in midair. Floating shops, observatories, and lounges drifted effortlessly among the clouds, while vast underground cities buzzed with life below. To someone from the early 20th century, nor felt like stepping into a dream. Although futuristic technology was everywhere, what fascinated Dienach the most was the philosophical and spiritual depth of the people. At Stefan's suggestion, they embarked on a trip to the Valley of Roses, the spiritual heart of the city. This place was home to philosophers and scientists who had dedicated their lives to exploring the mysteries of existence. As they traveled on a flying boat, Dienach marveled at the beauty of the valley: glimmering lights, vibrant flower gardens, magnificent temples, and monuments adorned with precious stones. He found himself enchanted by the tranquility of the place, and the more time he spent there, the deeper he felt connected to the world around him. But amid the splendor, an old ache stirred within Dienach, a longing for the life he had left behind. Memories of his first love, Anna, resurfaced with an intensity that he hadn't felt in years. The nostalgia grew stronger by the day, until it became almost unbearable. Something extraordinary happened during a day trip with Sylvia, the young woman with whom Dienach had grown close in this future world. Without realizing it, Sylvia unknowingly reenacted a promise Anna had made to Dienach long ago, creating a wreath from wildflowers and placing it on her head, just as Anna had vowed to do if they ever met again. This strange coincidence haunted Dienach, leaving him with more questions than answers. Could it be that Anna's soul had traveled through time and been reincarnated in Sylvia's body? When Dienach shared his bewilderment with Stefan, the philosopher offered a startling explanation. Time isn't linear. Souls, Stefan said, could transcend time, returning to fulfill promises made in past lives. With these thoughts swirling through his mind, Dienach felt an overwhelming wave of fatigue, a kind of weariness he hadn't known since arriving in 3906. His eyelids grew heavy, and for the first time in over a year, he slipped into a deep, unshakable sleep. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself back in the 20th century, once more in his original body. Chapter 4. Fact, Fiction, or Fantasy. At first glance, the story of Paul Amadeus Dienach feels far too extraordinary to believe. A man from the 1920s, who claimed to have fallen into a coma and awakened in the distant future, left behind predictions that eerily align with events unfolding in our world today. From environmental disasters and the rise of individualism to nuclear threats and interplanetary colonization, Dienach's accounts seem almost prophetic. Even more bizarre are his descriptions of flying vehicles, holographic traffic systems, and contact with alien life. But could a man from that era genuinely foresee events centuries ahead? Or is there something else at play? Many of the concepts Dienach documented were unimaginable for his time. Climate change, a topic absent from public discourse in the 1920s, is now one of the most urgent global issues. Nuclear weapons, another subject he hinted at, wouldn't become a reality until decades later, with the Manhattan Project beginning in the 1940s. The idea of individualism reshaping societies was also far removed from the collective mindset of post-World War I Europe. So how could a man living almost a century ago have envisioned these developments with such accuracy? This is where the story takes a strange turn. While it's tempting to believe Dienach's claims of experiencing the future, we must also consider alternative explanations. One possibility is that Dienach's predictions could be the result of false memories, memories created by the brain as a way to make sense of lost time or trauma. To understand how this works, let's explore the real-life story of Alpha Kabeja. On New Year's Day 2012, Kabeja was cycling through North London to reconcile with his girlfriend after attending a party without her. Tragically, a van struck him along the way. Although his injuries seemed minor, the real danger lay hidden. His brain had shifted within his skull due to the impact. Doctors at University College London Hospital placed him in a medically induced coma to relieve brain swelling. When Kabeja regained consciousness weeks later, he remembered events that never actually happened. He was convinced his girlfriend was expecting twins, recalled an MI6 job interview, and even believed he owned a private jet. These memories were not mere fantasies. They felt real to him, as vivid as if they had occurred. However, none of them had ever taken place. This phenomenon highlights the brain's complex nature. Unlike a camera recording events as they happen, memory is fluid, shaped by emotions, experiences, and even external influences. Studies such as Julia Shaw's 2015 research demonstrate how easy it is to implant false memories. Shaw's participants were led to believe they had committed crimes as teenagers through a series of suggestive interviews. Astonishingly, 70% of them vividly remembered these fictitious events, reinforcing the idea that memory is not always reliable. In Cabeja's case, his brain filled in the gaps by weaving together fragments of real experiences. His girlfriend, the idea of twins, and a job application at MI6 were genuine parts of his life. But his disoriented mind reshaped these elements into a fictional story. Could something similar have happened to Dienach during his coma? It's possible that Dienach, a man deeply interested in philosophy and humanities, drew upon his subconscious thoughts to create an elaborate narrative about the future. His brain might have used these concepts as a coping mechanism, generating a vivid story to explain the lost time. However, there's another possibility. Dienach's story might have been pure fiction all along. A striking parallel can be found in H.P. Lovecraft's 1930s novel, The Shadow Out of Time. The protagonist of Lovecraft's tale also experiences a coma and wakes up in a different timeline, although in the past rather than the future. It's worth noting that George Papahatsis, the man who published Dienach's diary in the 1970s, was an intellectual with a deep interest in philosophical themes. It's not far-fetched to think that Papahatsis may have drawn inspiration from Lovecraft's work, crafting Dienach's story as a philosophical narrative disguised as a fantastical time travel tale. The lack of concrete evidence surrounding Dienach's life adds to the skepticism. According to Papahatsis, Dienach lived in Zurich during the 1920s and later taught in Athens. Yet no official records confirm his existence in either city. The story claims Dienach fought for Germany during World War I, changed his name, and moved to Switzerland, conveniently explaining the absence of documentation. Even more suspiciously, the original handwritten diary, supposedly confiscated by Greek authorities, was never recovered. If the diary truly existed, why are all references to Dienach's life exclusively Greek, originating decades after his alleged experiences? To complicate matters further, the photograph often associated with Dienach is actually a mugshot of Daniel Tohill, a criminal from New Zealand. This discovery undermines one of the few pieces of supposed evidence supporting Dienach's existence, casting even more doubt on the authenticity of his story. All these inconsistencies make the tale feel like a work of fiction masquerading as fact, much like The Princess Bride, a fictional story presented as the abridged version of a non-existent original. In fact, before Dienach's diary was published in 1972, the same narrative had appeared in a series of articles in a Greek magazine called Parnassos. This suggests that the story may have been fabricated from the start. So is the story of Paul Amadeus Dienach real, or just a cleverly crafted hoax? The answer remains elusive. Perhaps it's a mix of both, an imaginative narrative born from memory distortions and philosophical musings, later embellished by those eager to believe in something extraordinary. Or maybe it's nothing more than an elaborate fiction, designed to inspire wonder and provoke thought. In the end, the mystery of Dienach's story lingers, leaving us with more questions than answers. Perhaps the truth will only be revealed when the year 3906 finally arrives, or perhaps, like many great stories, it's destined to remain forever shrouded in uncertainty. Thank you for watching. If you found Dienach's extraordinary journey intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more inspiring content. Share your thoughts below. What do you think about his predictions?